welcome to the show, and before we get to it, be sure to subscribe to us over on our Patreon, where you can take part in episode polls, see Cinema Snob episodes in advance, like sections of our upcoming supersized episode on 1983 in film. That's all over at patreon.com/thecinemasnob, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification button as well. We have opened up our store, where now you can get some of our previous limited edition shirts over at our Bonfire page by going to this link or clicking the link in the description. We've got our Saul shirt, Lloyd approved, and more. Plus, now for the first time, you can get these great designs by Sean Millington on these cool mugs, too. Check them out over on Bonfire. My whole timing today is thrown off. I'm streaming in the daylight right now. I saw Evil Dead Rise at like 1 in the afternoon. That felt weird. So here's what Evil Dead Rise is, folks. It's some old school gory horror where one channel, say HBO, you'd have the original Evil Dead. Then on Showtime, maybe Demons 2, the Lamberto Bava flick, where the demons are now loose in an apartment building. But which do I watch? Well, flip it over to the movie channel where they're playing Evil Dead Rise. It's pretty much both of those movies. And you could already tell it's one of the dark Evil Dead films, like the first one or the 2013 one, which I'd say the 2013 one is the one that this is kind of the closest to in feel. It doesn't really address the events from those others, so it could serve as either a standalone sequel or a remake, really, because either of those scenarios makes sense, because it does do the remakeable tropes, like having equivalence, meaning like, okay, in the first one, you know, they're all sitting there eating, and then the Deadites do things to lure them to the book. In the first one, it's the cellar door opening. They go in to investigate. In this, it's an earthquake that happens. It opens up the ground into this vault that's where they find the book. There's a scene early on, and all of these kind of happen at about the same points in the movie that these equivalents do. Like, you have a scene in an elevator that's a little like the tree scene from the first one. Instead of them driving in the first film and the bridge is out, in this one it's the stairs that are blown out, so they're kind of stuck on this floor. There was the original scene where there's the pencil wound and then the wound starts spreading. That equivalent happens in this with a wound to the face. There's, of course, the classic scene where one is dragged into the cellar. They're locked in there, and then they're kind of screaming and pushing on their cellar door. This has equivalents to that, only it's one who's dragged outside in the hallway and is outside banging. There's a chainsaw. There's a shotgun. When stuff does start getting dark, one starts listening to more of the recording, like Ash was doing, and in the same situations, too, that's where they get into the term bodily dismemberment that it uses in both movies. And again, there's some of the same lines will pop up, too. But what it does do well here is, sure, the gore and the ferociousness of it. It does give you a set of characters that mostly I liked, and I genuinely felt bad for when this horrific shit starts happening to them. That really does get into the fact that the Deadites don't give a shit who you are. We've seen them go after college students before, sure, but here, it's this family living in a high-rise, and they're being raised by a single mom, and the aunt found out she's pregnant. And it does make the situation feel pretty human and tragic. And it's because of that I probably like this better than the 2013 one, but I haven't seen that one in like 10 years, so I could maybe watch it now. and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I like the 2013 one better than this one. Like I said, it's just been a while since I've seen that. The last time I saw it was when I saw it in the theater, and they do work the cabin into this as well, and that's a pretty effective scene at the beat. You see a little bit of it in the trailer, and at the beginning there is a whole sequence in a cabin. Then there's an eye-rolling moment where something big happens, and boom, one day earlier. Now, I'll say this. It does tie into... Cabin stuff does bookend it, so there wouldn't really be any other way to structure that other than doing it like a flashback. But with that being said, those bookended scenes, you could honestly cut that out of the movie and you wouldn't lose anything. It's just there because it's Evil Dead, so here's a cabin in one scene. And for all of its faults, it works where it needs to work. I did care about most of these people to the extent of I was rooting for them to survive. I cared about, like I said, 99% of them. There was like maybe one, not maybe, there was one where I was like, I hope you're not in this very much. But the cinematography is great. It's a claustrophobic film. The gore is excellent. It's worth a late night watch. Like, if you're going to see it in theaters, it'd probably be fun to go see late at night. I'll give it a B-, because, I mean, yeah, the original trilogy will always be the ones that I go back to, and that's the thing about this movie. It is kind of reminding you of that a lot. So while I'm sitting there thinking, this is fine, it's totally serviceable, it's... Other than the fact that it takes place in a high-rise, and even with that, I honestly like Demons 2 better. It's not like it's got enough of an identity about itself to where I would be like, oh, I'm in the mood for that one. No, it'll always be, I'm in the mood for the first one. I'm in the mood for Evil Dead 2. I'm in the mood for Army of Darkness. Or, I mean, like, it's been 10 years, so maybe I'd be like, I'm in the mood for the 2013 one. So maybe 10 years from now, I might be like, oh, sure, like, yeah, Evil Dead Rise. Let's go ahead and pop that in. It kind of reminds me a little of that recent Hellraiser movie they did, where it was like... I'm not disliking this. It's fine. It's got all the ingredients in there for it to be serviceable without me really loving it or thinking it's great, really. So I was, when I was watching it, I was thinking of something more in the B category, yeah, but more specifically like a B. It really wasn't until I sat down here that I was like, maybe a B-, because it does hit a lot of those remake-able tropes where I was kind of sitting there constantly being like, oh, that's like that, that's like that, that's like that, that's like this story point, that one, that one, that one. And it's not even that it was doing bad, but it was just noticeable, really. So I am kind of going back and forth on a B or a B-, but B- in that, like, if you wait for streaming on this, you would probably be fine. Or, you know, you go see like a cheap showing at the theater late at night. It'll work for that too.